Good morning, everyone. We'll just get some attendees to come in into the webinar, and we'll start shortly. Perfect. Well, we'll get things started. First, I just wanted to thank everybody for taking some time out of their day to come join us for our initial session on information on solar energy. It's presented by the University of EECOL, where we aim to expand your knowledge and grow your business. The training will be taped, but the gallery will be hidden, and we'll be posting this to our YouTube channel. Just a quick introduction. My name is Rob Smith. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing with EECOL, and I'll be emceeing this. So there's a question and answer button down at the bottom. So feel free to post any questions you have, and we'll get to them at the end of the session. If we don't have time at the end of the session, we will follow up directly with you. Again, this will be the first of a series of training, and hopefully you can continue to join us as we move forward. Certificates will be sent out after the training to each of the attendees, and we look forward to having you come on more webinars with the University of EECOL. With that, I'd like to hand it over to our presenter today, Jaye Jonsson, our Director of Renewable Energy, who will go through some information on solar. Over to you, Jaye.
Thanks, Rob. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome. As Rob said, I'm Jaye Jonsson. I am the Director of Renewable Energy here at EECOL Electric. I've been in this position, for just over 6 years, one of the pioneers for this category of our business. So welcome, everybody. Hopefully we can enlighten you a little bit with our introduction to solar information. So renewable energy, complete solutions for all applications. So at EECOL, our offering, or our goal and our mission is to provide complete solutions for all renewable energy applications. Looking at this slide here, you can see everything from solar, photovoltaic, to grid-tied solar, off-grid solar, right to inverters and batteries, panels and racking, and right up into wind generation, particularly on the utility side of the wind generation industry or segment. So a question that often comes up, to me or to you or to your client, why solar? It's an industry-wide question, and I guess the answer is a few of these options here. Number one, is it a necessity? Are you at a remote job site where there's no power available? Is it an environmental concern? As we know, environmental concerns are a key initiative globally. Pardon me. And obviously solar can help us in that regard. Is your client technologically inclined? Some people are simply fascinated by what you see here in the illustration. Some people just want to understand how the technology works and are fascinated by it and want to implement solar. And last but certainly not least, there are certainly investment opportunities out there in the market, whether it's a power purchasing agreement with a utility, whether it's, again, offsetting your costs at your home or facility with solar. So again, there's certainly revenue involved as well. So solar photovoltaic, bit of a tongue twister, but we'll call it PV for short. So when you hear somebody refer to PV, what they're talking about is the standard solar panel that you typically see on a home or a facility. So what you're seeing here in the image on the left-hand side is a standard solar panel. So a standard solar panel is made up of cells. So these cells are made up of very thin silicon wafers. So in this case, it looks like roughly a 72 cell panel. Solar panels come in 60, 72, or 144 cell panels. And what's happening here is when the solar irradiation hits the solar panel, in a nutshell, it's basically agitating electrons, which creates electrical energy. There's also other applications when you see solar panels such as this. Geothermal is one. So in a geothermal case, you typically would be heating liquids, water, for hot water and that type of thing. Whereas in our case, being EECOL Electric, we're focusing on the electrical generation side of it. This is a map of Canada, as you can tell, that illustrates the photovoltaic potential annually. So as you can see here, there's plenty of solar potential in Canada. There's a lot of naysayers in the industry, or you'll run into people that say, well, we live in the north in Canada, solar is not feasible. That's absolutely not true. So this illustration shows how many kilowatt hours you can produce versus how many kilowatts of solar installed. So you can see that the potential is great. Now, if you look at our coastal regions where the potential isn't as good as where we are in the prairies here, that potential is equal to places like Germany, which are, global leaders in solar energy. So my point is that if Germany can be a global leader with potential as we have in our coastal regions, there's absolutely no reason why Canada isn't a top choice for solar. So grid-tied systems, net metering. So grid-tied systems or net metering are the most cost-effective way of implementing solar power. Basically, what you're doing is you're producing energy through your solar panels on the roof or on the ground here, as you see in the images. And what you're doing is backfeeding either the facility or a substation or an electrical service in order to use that power in real time. So if it was your home or your business or a facility of some sort, you would use that energy in real time. And then any extra energy, let's say the facility or nobody's at home that day, would be pushed back into the grid where you would then receive credits for that energy produced. So again, the most cost-effective way, in this case, there's no battery storage, you're simply net metering. And here's a diagram that breaks it down very simply for you. So you can see on the left-hand side, we've got a nice sunny day there. Looks like it's sunny anyway. Obviously, you're producing DC energy from the solar irradiation on the solar panels. And from there, we have to bring that power, that DC power, into an inverter and invert it into AC power, which we all use in our homes or facilities daily. So as I mentioned, anything that is not being consumed in real time in that home or facility will then be pushed back onto the grid via a bidirectional smart meter. Nowadays, most homes and facilities do have a digital meter, but if not, the utility will provide one for you. Sometimes at a cost and sometimes not, depending which area of the country you're in. And then from there, as I mentioned, it'll be pushed back onto the utility grid, and you'll receive credits based on what the bidirectional meter sees for current flowing through it. So very simple diagram, but it gives you a great illustration of what grid-tied net metering system is all about. Again, no batteries here, very cost-effective system. Okay, let's move on to the primary component in a solar power system. So obviously the solar panels. So what you've got here on the left-hand side is a standard monofacial, monocrystalline solar panel. Their efficiency is exceeding 20% these days. A monocrystalline panel is the purest form of a solar panel. It's cut from a single source silicon cell. In the past, we've sold a lot of polycrystalline panels, which are not quite as efficient, but were more cost effective. Nowadays, you're seeing your polycrystalline and your monocrystalline panels in the same price range. So for us here at EECOL, it makes sense for us to stock a monocrystalline, get the highest efficiency possible. And as maybe I did or did not mention, but that is just a single-sided standard solar panel. This one here is a black frame with a white back sheet. So it does stand out a little bit on your roof, but a great option nonetheless. Over to the right-hand side of the slide, you have bifacial solar panels. So basically, again, you've got your high efficiency and your 20% plus, but in this case, you have the potential to produce energy on the back side of the solar panel. And that will come from reflection of the sun. So whether you're reflecting off snow, off of a shiny surface on a roof, probably not so much if it's out in the field off of the ground, you probably weren't getting much of a reflection. So again, great opportunity to produce extra energy with a bifacial panel. This one here that you see is a split cell that came into our market in the last few years, basically just affording us more cells on the solar panel by putting the junction boxes in the center of the panel. It looks to me like a 144 cell panel, we're seeing those upwards of 500, 550 watts nowadays in the market. Again, by saying in the market, depends what we can get our hands on. So it's a great product for the market. And it's important to note that while people say you can potentially produce up to 30% extra from the backside, in my opinion and in my experience, I think that 10% is probably a more accurate estimate. But again, it depends on the application and what type of reflection you're getting on the backside. Moving on, let's talk about warranty. So warranty is highly important. Again, one of the first questions I get asked, and you as contractors will get asked that as well, right off the bat. How long are these solar panels going to last? So solar panels, solar module, pardon me, they're interchangeable terms. I should have mentioned that at the start. But if somebody's talking about a module panel, same thing. It's important to note that they will degrade over time. And of course, this coincides with the manufacturer's warranty. So any top tier solar panel globally will have warranties, quality and power. And just as a side note, EECOL only stocks tier 1 solar panels. So on the quality side, below quality there, you'll see that the guarantees are material and workmanship. So we're talking about the frame of the solar panel, the seal, the glass, that type of thing. So they'll warranty that for 10 to 12 years, depending on the manufacturer. So it's important to note that you do not want to alter the frame or alter the solar panel. There's a lot of people that would like to construct their own mounting or racking for solar panels. So you have to be careful what you're doing with your grounding. Don't drill holes in the solar panel. That type of thing will avoid your warranty. So just be careful with that. And then on the power side, what we're seeing now is after 10 years, they'll guarantee that you're still producing 90% of what you were on day one. That data actually could be updated a little bit. That's on me. But it's probably more like 93, 94%. And after 30 years, that panel will still be producing at 80% of what it was on day one. So as you can see, pretty substantial warranties for a piece of electronics. And in our opinion or our experience here at EECOL Electric, the last thing that we see fail on a system is generally the solar panel. For all of you electricians out there, you know that connection points are typically where you see failures. The only failures we have is when we drop a solar panel on the concrete in our warehouse, and it's not a good situation, but it does happen. But yeah, for the most part, I rarely see a defective solar panel. So very robust, high quality. Again, good value for sure. Okay, so let's talk about the second component of the system. So we're going to talk about microinverters here first. So what we're looking at here is the DS3, and I'll use my mouse. So that is the microinverter there, for those of you that don't know that. So the DS3 is brand new to the market. It's the most powerful dual microinverter in the industry. As you can see there in the notes, it'll do upwards up to a 660 watt panel, two 660 watt panels. So pretty substantial. It's a single phase 240 volt application. Maximum units per breaker or per circuit with a 30 amp breaker is 6 units. So what that's saying is you can put 6 of these microinverters on one circuit on a 2-pole 30 amp breaker. Okay. The efficiency, the nominal MPPT efficiency, which stands for maximum power point tracking, is 99.5%. I won't go into great detail about MPPT today, but just be confident that when we design a system here at EECOL, we consider the DC to AC ratio from solar panel output to inverter output to be optimal so that it's operating in that range. And then again, warranty. We can't speak enough about warranty. 10 years standard for this product, and you can buy up to 25 years. So really good warranties there. Again, if you're buying from EECOL, you're going to have peace of mind that we're partnered with strong vendors so that you will be able to exercise that warranty should something happen. Pardon me, I'm just going to have a sip of my coffee. So let's move over to the image. So again, for those of you that don't have any experience with solar at all or with microinverters, this microinverter would generally be mounted underneath the solar panels onto the railings that the solar panels are mounted on. Therefore, it's tucked away, it's protected from the elements. Again, it's plug and play, so it's easy to It's easy to have a quick installation. So again, very efficient product. And by plug and play, I also mean that this black line here illustrates our bus cable. So as I mentioned before, you could put 6 of these on one circuit. In this case, we have 1 inverter on this circuit. So it would be plug and play here at the connection point with the bus cable. There's a termination end cap, as you can see here at the top. From there, you're going to an AC disconnect or an AC combiner box. And from there, we're backfeeding the electrical panel via a breaker. So you can see how people like this system because it's plug and play. It's easy to install. Again, there's not a lot of DC work. You're working with AC power. So again, great product, very popular in the market. I will move on. I think there was something else I was going to say, but let's move on to the next slide. So here you can see a QS1 inverter. So QS1 is the same thing, only it's a quad microinverter. Again, it's industry-leading technology here. It will run up to 4 solar panels with a maximum output of 1,500 watts. That's substantial. It's come so far in the last few years. It's very impressive, actually. This unit will do solar panels up to 560 watts. So again, that's a lot of wattage on one microinverter, which again makes it more cost-effective and ease of install as well. Again, a 240-volt single-phase application. And with this quad unit, you can put 3 units on one circuit on a 2-pole 25-amp breaker. Each of them has a maximum output current of 6.25%. And again, in that MPPT efficiency of 99.5. And the same warranty goes for all AP Systems products. So again, that 10-year standard, purchase up to 25 years. So we're seeing the market migrate to this product consistently. Again, it's very cost effective. They seem to be getting more efficient, more reliable as days go on. So it's been a great product for us, and we'll stand behind it. Okay, let's talk about string inverters. So the other option in your residential, small commercial would be a string inverter. So what you see here on the right-hand side is a Fronius string inverter. So Fronius is a company that was established in 1944, a family-owned company, started their business in battery charging, eventually moved to welding, and then into solar inverters. This solar inverter is one of the most robust in the industry, bar none. It has an operating temperature of -40 C. So for all of us out in the prairies, this is a great option to be producing energy when it's a nice cold day. And for those of you that don't know, on a side note, the colder the day with a night with a clear sky, the more energy you'll produce. Cool days offers less resistance within the cabling of the system, and then allows the energy to flow a lot smoother. Hot days, again, more resistance, slower flow of energy through the system. So something to note there. So Fronius string inverter, as you can see on the left-hand side here, we have 3 strings of panels. So what's happening here, rather than having a microinverter connected to each or to 2 of them or 4 of them, we're creating strings of panels by wiring them in series. So each of these panels has a positive and negative lead on them. Basically, when we design a system, we'll identify how many solar panels per string, and then they simply get wired in series, positive to negative, and then fed back into what you see here is a rapid shutdown box. Or you can put the inverter right on the roof within 1 meter of the solar panels, and you can eliminate this rapid shutdown box because the inverter will act as a rapid shutdown. Just a point about microinverters, they don't require a rapid shutdown. Basically, they act as a rapid shutdown unit themselves. Anytime any of these inverters sense that the grid is unstable or disconnected, they'll shut down in milliseconds. And that's Canadian electrical code. Anything that's CSA will do that. A little bit more about Fronius. Again, I could go in depth with this all day, but I'd be happy to take questions after or speak to you individually on it. Fronius, being a partner of EECOL, a proud partner based on their longevity, their bankability, their service. Again, their robust product, reliable. I can't say enough about them. In my experience in this business, they've treated us well. So, and by treated us well, I mean reliable service, bankability, warranty. So great partner of ours. And as I said, we can talk more about it after. Again, I could talk about it for a long time. Let's talk about racking systems, the third component in a solar power system. So as you can see here, we've got some nice illustrations of racking. Let's move over to some more detailed pictures here. So obviously there's multiple types of mounting or racking. On the top left-hand side of the slide, you can see that we've got a pole-mounted racking system. In this case, it's a 2-panel or 2-module setup. You typically see that in a remote location, job sites, places where you want to keep your solar panels away from potential damage, that type of thing. 10 or 20-foot poles, depending if it's a remote location out in the bush, you want to put it on a pole so that it can take some sunlight and not be in the shade. So great product for, again, those remote applications, traffic applications, that type of thing. And there was one more comment there, but anyway, you can see how that would be effective in a lot of different applications. Let's slide over to the right there to the residential sloped roof. So what you're seeing there is a typical sloped roof installation. I mean, this is a pretty tight installation. And by tight, I mean it's pretty impressive. Right to the edges of the roof. They've got all black modules. They got 3 rows of what looks like, I don't know, a dozen panels or so. So what you're seeing here is they're being mounted to this rail system that is lag bolted into the trusses of this roof. So yes, they are putting bolts through the roof into the trusses, and then from there adding rails, and then from there putting the panels on the rails. So in my time in this industry, Unirac's our partner for roof mount rails. Never had a leak. So that's the first question your customers are going to ask: is it going to leak? We've never had a leak. For the most part, we have solar silicone. When they're putting holes in the roof, they'll lag bolt in and they'll fill it with solar grade silicone, and we've never had an issue. So again, very cost effective way of doing it. And I guess the only thing to note is that if your house is facing north, you wouldn't do this. In our hemisphere, it'd be east, west, or south. Let's slide over to the right side of the image here. So that is a ground mount system. That's a system that we did in southern Saskatchewan. If you look on the very right-hand side, that pile is a 15-foot pile that's actually pounded into the ground. So it is pounded into the ground 9 foot 6 inches. And from there, the rest of the racking table is built onto that pile. So there are other types of piles as well: screw piles, helical piles, or pile-driven piles. In this case, we went with a cost-effective solution from Unirac again. But again, great product. This system is extremely robust. It hasn't budged. A big concern when you're doing ground mount racking is geo and soil testing. And fortunately, the soil in that area is those panels are never moving. It's pretty stiff soil, so we were good there. But great installation. You can see that you've got 2 panels high in portrait orientation, which is typical for a ground mount system in our area of the world. Again, cost effective. Again, great option for solar. We have a few different options for ground mount. And last but certainly not least, the large image in the bottom left, that's EECOL Electric in Calgary. That is a ballasted system. If you look at this system, it's a flat commercial roof held down by 2,000 20-pound bricks. The reason for that many bricks is because when you have a system, any type of system, it's going to have wind and snow loading. But in this case, when this was designed, EECOL Electric and the gentleman that designed this, they did their due diligence, like everybody on this call probably has, is they went on the World Wide Web and checked out what the most optimal tilt angle for solar panels is. And here in Calgary, we're at 50 degrees latitude, so the most optimal would be 50, but in that case, we'd be adding so much wind and snow loading to that roof that it wouldn't be feasible. And in this case, we have 30 degrees, which nowadays wouldn't be feasible either. EECOL built this as a showpiece and for an example to do tours. It's a great system. This thing certainly has never budged, but there was a substantial cost to reinforce this section of our roof in our brand new Calgary main building. So when I talk about snow loading, basically it's wind and snow. So if you can see off in the distance, which you may or may not be able to, that's northwest, that's downtown Calgary. So we get high winds every day coming from the northwest that try to tear this thing off the roof. Hence all of the ballast weight, which holds it down. And then you have snow loading, and not so much in between the rows, but at the back end of this array where these gentlemen are standing in the picture, we'll get 3 and 4 foot snow drifts and 40 and 50 feet back from the array, which as you can understand would create a lot of weight for this roof. So with all that said, my point is that nowadays we sell a lot of ballasted roof systems, flat roof commercial or residential, but we're using a 10-degree pitch. And at the end of the day, it's entirely because of cost versus production. Again, this is a great system. It's very efficient. But what's our payback based on the investment made? Today, we probably would have made a different decision based on what we're seeing in the market. But again, when this was put in, this was the largest roof mount system in Western Canada. We're highly proud of it. If you ever want to take a look at it, come visit me and I'll take you for a tour. Okay, balance of system. So at EECOL, as you know, we pride ourselves on being a one-stop shop with our inventory, service. And this is certainly a plug, but it's certainly true. You can walk into EECOL Electric and buy 300 kilowatts of solar, of roof mount solar, and pick up all of your balance of system, your BOS products, your lightning protection, your combiner boxes, your disconnects, fuses and breakers, wire and cable, labeling, and grounding. So we're proud of that fact. And I feel that it sets us apart from a lot of our competitors. And again, we take pride in the fact that you can come here, obviously be efficient with your manpower and your time. So consider us when it comes to one-stop shopping. Just doing a time check here, just with respect of everybody's time. Okay, so system design. So every system that we sell at EECOL, 99% of the time we're doing the physical and the electrical design. We're happy to do so. It is a little bit time consuming and it takes communication and information in order to do it properly. So we get calls all the time. I've got a 2,000 square foot house and I want solar. Can I get a budget quote? Well, unfortunately, we've taken the guesswork out of it and we'll work with you, very diligently to gain knowledge about your facility, your home, or what have you. So roof dimensions is a big one. So at the end of the day, if you've got a panel that's 3.5 feet wide by 6 feet tall, how many panels can we fit on your roof? And again, not on the north side of the roof, east, west, or south. So that's a major factor, obviously. And then from there, kilowatt hour consumption, if you move over to the right. So we'll ask if there's any history of electrical bills, how many kilowatt hours were used in the previous year. That helps us understand, what the goal is. If the goal is to get to net zero, to offset all of that power, and if there's enough roof space, then we're in great shape. Again, it doesn't always work like that. In my experience, typically on an average home, you would not have enough roof space to get to net zero. But we'll certainly try. We can look at ground mount or some other options. Azimuth, like I mentioned, which direction is your roof slope facing? Again, we'll avoid north at all costs. And your roof pitch. It is important for your production. But as I mentioned in the previous slide about cost versus production, pitch isn't everything anymore. With the efficiency of the solar panels being greater, here in Western Canada, with the majority of your energy being produced between April and October, if you're making $1 a day in December, does the pitch matter? Do you want to clean off the snow? I guess that's up to you. But at the end of the day, your bulk of your production is in the seasons when there's no snow. So something to consider. And then ground mount, pretty straightforward. You saw those ground mount images. Do you have space? We really want to pay attention to shading in the area, other facilities or homes or trees, that type of thing. It's always something to consider. Okay, so let's talk about system payback. So first, just a heads up, two of the software platforms we use here at EECOL are PV Watts and Helioscope. Highly regarded websites in the industry. Again, it helps us a lot with design and payback. We've been using them both for years, and they're great products. If you're interested in getting in the business, you may want to look at getting a subscription to Helioscope. PV Watts is complimentary on the World Wide Web. Okay, so let's do a quick ROI. I'll try to take my time through this so that I don't lose anybody. But let's do this payback scenario. So let's say I did a site visit at your home, and we measured the roof, and we figured out that you could put 16 panels on the roof. And in this case, we're going to quote our 395 watt all black panels that we have in stock. So you're basically getting a 6.32 kilowatt system. And it's facing south, the roof's facing south, that's great. And it's at a 412 or 20 degree pitch. So we're in good shape. So what the software says is that a 6.32 kilowatt system facing south at 20 degrees will produce 7,400 kilowatt hours per year. Okay, so that's fair. So if you look at your electrical bills and, oh, well, last year we consumed 10,000, so you could get an idea that, we could probably pay for roughly 3/4 of your energy through solar. So the total install price, these are budget numbers because I know we're talking to contractors. This number would be for an end user, and this would be, I'll be honest, if you were giving them a deal at $250 a watt installed, that would be a great price. I've seen it as low as $225 a watt. I've seen it as high as $350 a watt. Again, just depending on where you're at and the market that you're in. So at $250 a watt, the 6.32 kilowatt system is going to run you $15,800. Okay, so the formula is basically multiply the system production in kilowatts by the rate you pay for power. So 7,400 kilowatt hours annual production times, I'm using 14 cents as my price per kilowatt hour. So you can see that the total revenue annually from that system is $1,036. Okay, so we take that number and then we look at any rebates that are available. Right now, there's the Canada Greener Homes grant available for $5,000 for solar. So we'll put that formula, we'll add that to our formula. So we got our $15,800 original cost minus our $5,000 rebate, gives us $10,800 is what your total investment is. So you'll divide your investment by your revenue, your $1,036 annual revenue from solar, and it'll give you a 10.4 year payback. So this is a calculation that we do here every day. Again, I hope I didn't lose anybody, but it's fairly straightforward, but that's how we determine, what your ROI is, what your annual production is. So there's no guesswork. Again, we get a lot of inquiries, just give me a budget. I will throw out a price per watt budget for depending on what type of system it is, but we don't like to because we like to get it right the first time. So off-grid applications, I want to touch on off-grid applications a little bit here. So EECOL Electric is fully embedded in the off-grid industry. We offer solutions, everything from RVs to, again, traffic applications, camera applications, low voltage monitoring and SCADA systems monitoring. You got your oil and gas sites. There's plenty of batteries and monitoring systems needed out there. So all of that type of thing. And I should not forget the top right here, cabins. We do full on off grid for cabins, homes, that type of thing. And we would use our Schneider solar line for that type of application. But for the rest of these job sites and that, we'll design it, we'll supply you all the material. So just a simple diagram for you. I like to show this because it just breaks it down. So you've got your solar panel again, bright sunny days, we can see producing energy. In this case, because you have a battery bank, you're adding a charge control. And what that charge controller is doing is regulating the voltage that's coming into that battery. So you're basically protecting the battery and optimizing its charge and its life cycle. Without a charge controller, I mean, you can get yourself into some issues with, ruining batteries and that type of thing. So you want to have a charge controller. From there, that battery bank is storing DC energy again. So what do we have to do? We have to invert that through an inverter from DC to AC power, and then again, run it back into our home, our facility, or whatever the application is. So very simple diagram, but I think it's important that we lay it out for you. That again, we offer this system, and that again, we'll design it based on loads and load demand. So this slide is extremely basic, but when we get a call for off-grid solar, and even more so than grid-tied solar, it's always about a budget price. And I want a budget price. I'm going off the grid. I'm upset with my local utility, and I just want a price. And unfortunately, it puts us in a bit of a tough spot because we have to respond with, well, that's not really how we operate specifically with off-grid solar. All of our designs are designed in-house. One of our team members, he's an electrical engineer. He's got 10 years of off-grid experience, and we design systems based on demand. So you can see everything from alarm clocks, answering machines, washers and dryers, audio, video equipment. If you plan on building a cabana in the backyard for your mother-in-law to come visit, anything and everything needs to be documented. And again, it's a process, but we want to do it diligently so that the design is done properly. There's nothing worse than having an off-grid system. You as a contractor, your client's phoning you, I have no power, it's January in Regina. I'm from Saskatchewan, so I understand what those days can be like without power. So it's highly important that we're offering the correct design, again, for peace of mind for your client, for you, and for us as a supplier. A little bit of a plug here for EECOL. I think it's important to note that we can supply all this product at all of our over 60 locations. I believe in the last 12 to 18 months, we're opening, I believe, 6 brand new locations just to add to our portfolio, I guess, for lack of better terms. So we're proud of that, and we're proud of the fact that we have salespeople in all these locations. Our sales team is trained to bring their inquiries to the Renewable team for design, support, any of that thing. Me specifically, I'm a big advocate of customer service. I'm available any time of the day. You can call my cell phone and I'd be glad to help you. As I mentioned, our sales professionals, I believe we have between 120 and 130 outside sales staff that a lot of you know that are out there servicing you in other aspects of our business, whether it's lighting, automation, data, whatever it is, utility. They're out there servicing you. And again, we have the specialists to back those guys up. So we're proud of that fact, and we only plan on growing. So we're looking forward to opportunities. On the technical side of things, again, all of our employees, including our specialists, we're all factory trained. Any opportunity we get with our manufacturing partners or our vending partners, we take advantage of that, and hopefully that brings value to you. And I'm sure it does. Expertise, I'll speak from the solar renewable side. I've been in this business, like I mentioned, for some time, and I'm still learning every day. I deal with people that are a lot more informed than I am in the industry, and I'm proud to learn from them. We've got a great team. As I mentioned, we've got a gentleman now designing our off-grid systems that's been in the business for over 10 years. He knows what he's doing. You can be assured that you're going to get a quality product. Here's a slide just representing some of our partnerships. In case, I assume you're picking up the theme of the presentation here. Our partnerships are highly important to us. Our vetting process is absolutely crucial to our future when it comes to relationships, growing our businesses together. Again, peace of mind, like I said, bankability, warranty, service. Those things are second to none in my opinion, and I feel like you would agree with me. There's a lot of great products in the market, but at the end of the day, who's servicing those products? Who's supporting them? Where are you getting your warranty? Who are you going to come to when something goes sideways? And that's important to EECOL in every aspect of our business. But obviously, we're talking about renewables today, so you may be familiar with some of these vending partners, but we're proud to be partners with them for those reasons. Okay, well, I think I'm a little bit under time, but I guess when you get going, it's a little bit hard to keep track of time. But I do want to say that a thank you to all of you for attending. Every time I do one of these presentations, the feedback is, we want more, we want more. Well, I'm here to tell you that our team is here for you. I'm personally here for you. If it's this afternoon, I don't mind if you call me, set up a meeting, whatever we have to do. I'll be glad to talk about all the aspects of solar for as long as you'd like. So thank you for your time. We understand that it's valuable, but I think it's important that you invest just as much as us so that we can grow together into the future. And one quick shout out, I do have to thank all the fine people that helped make this happen today. Our marketing group, Rob Smith, obviously had a big role in this initiative. So thank you, Rob. And I won't name everybody, but you know who you are. I really appreciate you making me look good today. So with that said, I will hand it back over to Rob Smith.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Jay, and great job. A lot of good questions coming in and a lot of good comments. So just wanted to take some time to thank you for that, and we'll get into some questions. So the first question comes in, Jay, is do we need a disconnect means before the inverter?
Okay, so I guess depending on, no. So basically, you do not need a disconnect means before. Now, I'm going to speak from my experience. There's different codes in different areas, but basically what I'm seeing for the most part is you've got your, let's say, microinverters, you're connected to your solar panels. You'll have to have a disconnect, an AC disconnect. You do not need a DC disconnect. On the string inverter side, just to add to that, a Feronia string inverter does have a built-in DC disconnect. It may not be accepted in all jurisdictions.
Perfect. Thank you, Jay. Question regarding net metering. In regards to the net metering system, if there isn't storage of electricity, are these systems being designed to supply enough wattage power to power a full home in case of a power outage? Or do these systems offer a cost savings comparing to a system that would need batteries?
Okay, so yeah, so in this case, net metering, just a grid tied system, what we talked about today would not have battery backup. So the idea here is to offset your costs. If we're talking about battery backup to power a home in the case of a power outage, then you'd be looking at a more complex system like our Schneider Connex series, the XW Pro series, where you would implement storage, generator, that type of thing. And that's another presentation altogether. But in this case, if the power goes out with a grid tied, no battery backup, you will not have power.
All right. Thank you, Jay. Question regarding the supply. Does EECOL supply the racking for the panels as well?
You betcha. As I mentioned, we're proud to be a one-stop shop. We supply everything: panels, inverters, racking, and balance the system.
Perfect. For designs and requests, Jay, and quotes, is it best for them to deal directly with our OSR team, or should they be going directly to the Renewable group at EECOL?
Well, it's entirely optional. As I mentioned, I try to make myself available any time of the day. I personally enjoy when it goes through your local salesperson, because then you have a local means of contact. That salesperson can then bring the inquiry to me for support, and the two of us can work as a team to support you.
I have a question regarding the interconnection of panels and the rapid shutdown equipment. Canadian Electrical Code Rule 64-220 specifies connectors to be mated in pairs.
Okay, so I guess there's two parts to that question. So mated in pairs, meaning an MC4 connector. So on the leads of a solar panel, you'll have what you call an MC4 connector. Now, what they're saying, mated in pairs, I believe what the question is there's different makes and models out there. MC4, made by Staubli, would be the Kleenex of MC4 connectors. There are others out there. They will work if you have different manufacturers. And I'll be honest with you, I'm sure there's a whole bunch of systems out there in Canada that have different manufacturer MC4s connecting. But at the end of the day, we only sell MC4 Staubli, the original manufacturer of MC4s. And then in regards to rapid shutdown, I don't really recall the second portion of that question, but again, it would all coincide with having the correct pairs and mating for it to pass inspection. I guess that answers the question.
Another question regarding the MC4 connectors, Jay, is how do you ensure different manufacturers' MC4 connectors are compatible?
So the rule of thumb in the industry is that they're not supposed to be compatible. If you plug them in, again, they'll operate and they'll function. But at the end of the day, if your inspector is aware of it, then you may not pass inspection. Here's a quick example. We're seeing utility scale projects all across Western Canada go in, and there's a lot of international parts coming in. And my question to them a lot of the time is, are you mating in pairs? Are you using different manufacturers? I'm just trying to enlighten them to be aware of it. At the end of the day, a race to the bottom for price isn't always the best option.
Perfect. Regarding stock capabilities, Jay, it's what items are stocked by EECOL for getting the solar setup going? And where is the most stock located? And just asking for approximate ETA if an order was coming through.
Okay, so we stock product. The majority of our stock is in Saskatchewan and Alberta, and again, it's just based on the market conditions. The idea here is that we communicate with you, our sales team communicates with you, and I communicate with you. If there's a necessity to have local inventory, we will absolutely do so. If not, I mean, we're looking at if we get on top of it right away, 2 days out to the coast of BC, and I mean 1 to 2 days in the prairies. So again, if it's Calgary, Edmonton, Regina, Saskatoon, we should be able to facilitate any order within a day or two.
Perfect. Regarding your ROI example there, Jay, was that built on a grid tie system? And if so, what would be the same sort of budget price for an off-grid?
So that was definitely budget based on a standard grid tie without battery backup. I do have to resort back to what I mentioned in the presentation about budget prices and off-grid. So based on the question, I have no idea what the load demand is, so it'd be hard for me to put a budget price. I could easily say, oh, it's $35,000, but at the end of the day, right now I'd be guessing. So we'd have to sit down and go through the load demand.
Perfect. With the rapid shutdown, does that mean when the utility has a power outage, does that mean no credits are generated from the solar panels?
That's correct. So anytime the grid becomes unstable or the power goes out, the inverters will shut down in milliseconds. There'll be no energy flowing through. And that's a Canadian electrical code for safety. If you've got a lineman fixing the grid and you're backfeeding energy, it's not a good situation.
Perfect. Is there a common list of materials, Jay, for the solar material that you supply, like a cheat sheet of going through that?
Yeah, so we do. We put out an off-grid solar price list every month for everyone's information, and we'd be happy to send it to you. That's it's an industry norm for a lot of our competitors in that. For the grid tied stuff, yes, we have products that that are more common that I could easily make you a list if you contact me. That's no problem. But at the end of the day, we don't offer a price list for grid tied products because we do have our action at EECOL where you can go on, where you can log in and you can check pricing on there. We can get you set up on that if you give me a shout. So there's a couple options there.
When the metering is running, or when the meter is running reverse to the grid, how does the delivery charge that the utility charge work?
Okay, so there's different scenarios for different provinces or different utilities. Here in Alberta, basically you're getting one-to-one credit for your energy that you're pushing back into the grid. Saskatchewan, for example, they'll give you one-to-one in real time, but anything that where you're building credits, they will, I think it's 7.5 cents is what they'll pay. So you just have to either contact me or get on the Google machine and take a look at what your utility is offering for price.
Perfect. Apart from the charge controller, Jay, are there any harmonic mitigation techniques or filters typically used to reduce the losses?
Okay, so now we're getting in a little deeper on the technical side. Based on the harmonics that I've seen for the products we sell for string inverters, microinverters, I think it's equal to 1, so very minimal harmonic distortion. And I won't go into detail right now. I can certainly get you more information, but I'm not going to get in over my head here on this presentation. But thank you for the question.
For sure. Well, we'll circle back. Sure. Person that answered that question, Jay. Are utility companies in Calgary allowing residential installs to push power back to the grid and crediting them for that power?
Yes, they are. Absolutely. Basically, what will happen is when you apply for a permit, they'll approve or deny it based on the size of the system. they'll want to see how much extra you're generating. But typically at the end of the day, because they're not paying you cash money for it, you're just earning credits over a 12-month period. They'll typically allow you to oversize your system so that you can be sure and get to net zero.
Perfect. I think you mentioned this, but just an overview again, Jay, on since the solar panels are degrading over time, what's the maximum lifespan for a solar panel?
That's a great question. There's a gentleman in Edmonton was a longtime member of the Solar Energy Society of Alberta, who I wouldn't say boast, but speaks about one of his initial systems that he installed in the late 1970s, and still producing power off the solar panels. So at the end of the day, they'll continue to operate. You know, it could be 40, 50 years, but again, at what efficiency and at what amount of production? I mean, you're probably going to want to look at, again, depending as if it's a revenue scenario, or if you're again trying to be net zero, you're going to want to upgrade them, or if you move out of that home or what have you, you're going to want to look at probably after 25, 30 years, I would say.
Perfect. Can you also design systems for new agriculture or irrigation systems where there's no historical consumption data?
Interesting question. So we could. So I'm assuming this is it's the irrigation application is taking power from the grid. Obviously, I guess, Robbie, you're not communicating, you're just reading the questions. We may have to circle back on that. I'm almost positive there's a way to do it. Again, we could just look at what the demand is for those irrigation systems, amperage, voltage, and then design a system to offset that energy and amperage, voltage, and runtime per day or per year, and then we could figure it out from there.
Perfect. Are you able to provide Q-cell products, Jay, including solar panels with factory installed microinverters?
Q-cells is definitely one of our primary partners for solar panels. I'll be honest, I haven't seen any of them offered with factory installed microinverters. And if that were the case, I would probably avoid them just based on the fact that I haven't vetted that product yet. And I mean, we're pretty comfortable with our current offering for microinverters. Nowadays, I don't think, in my opinion or my experience, I don't see a big cost savings by having a pre-installed microinverter. What we're seeing is panel manufacturers are sticking to what they do best. Inverter manufacturers are sticking to what they do best.
Perfect. A few questions regarding a company called Solar Edge. Is there possibilities to work with them in the near future?
There are definitely, and I mean, we're constantly looking at new options and new vendors. And I will say that it's been a topic of conversation here. I'll leave it at that. I'll just say stay tuned.
Perfect. Who do we contact for project examples or solutions?
You could contact anyone in the Renewable group. If you don't know who it is locally, again, you could contact me directly. If you walk into one of your branches and ask them, who do I talk to about solar? Someone will point you in the right direction, and anybody on our team will be happy to help you.
Perfect. We'll also be sending out a contact card for the Renewable team to everybody attending the seminar today, so that you can have that direct access to the group. Does the warranty of panels protect against things like hail damage, Jay?
The warranty does not protect against hail damage. So that would typically go through your home insurance or facility insurance. A lot of people frown when they hear that answer, but I can confidently say in 6 years plus, I haven't seen one solar panel come back broken. Maybe I didn't hear about it from hail. We get some pretty substantial hail here in Alberta. Haven't seen one. They're pretty robust. I'm a pretty big guy, and I can stand on them, and I can withstand that. I know hail's a little bit of a different impact, but I can't say I've seen any come back with hail damage.
Perfect. Regarding the warranty, Jay, does that cover install labor to change out the part?
So warranty with Fronia string inverters, they do have a subsidy or a rebate, or for lack of a better term, they will reimburse the contractor for their trips to site, which is a really great program. On the AP Systems microinverter side, I haven't seen that yet.
Perfect. If 10 to 20 years down the road, will the same panel be available regarding the warranty?
It will not.
It goes down, we install a new version of the panels, but it looks different. How do you go against that?
So it's a bit of an issue. I mean, the frame sizes for residential 60 cell, your typical residential frame sizes are very close, but at the end of the day, it will be a bit of a concern. I mean, you'll have to find something that you can fit, that you can aesthetically pleases you and that will fit within the system. The warranty will be good. A lot of these manufacturers have a third party warrant, regulating or keeping up with their warranties. So that is a bit of a concern. But at the end of the day, the frame size on a residential type panel isn't really changing too much.
Do we support any testing equipment for solar PVs, Jay?
Yeah, we do. We carry several lines of testers here at EECOL. Megger being one of them. If you look at, I think EECOL's got one. I mean, sorry, pardon me, not EECOL. Help me out here, Rob. Some of our Ideal, pardon me. Ideal, and there'd be several others as well. So there's lots of them in the market.
Perfect. I'm not sure if you can answer this, Jay, but what's the ideal type of solar panel we can use in the Philippines?
Well, I think it could be the exact same type of panel you'd use in Canada. Again, I would just recommend that it's a top tier manufacturer. And I mean, solar panels are a global commodity. So any panel that you can get in Southeast Asia would be the same that you could get in Canada. I would just recommend that you do your research and make sure it's a top tier manufacturer.
Perfect. Do we supply any sun tracking panels, Jay?
So the tracking would be done by the racking itself, by the mounting. So we have some options. My opinion is that tracking is a great option when you're in a large scale revenue type application, a power purchasing agreement, that type of thing where you're trying to maximize your revenue. This is my opinion. I stand by it, but with moving parts in Western Canada where we reside, I'm a little hesitant to get behind the fact that they're not going to need constant maintenance. So again, every application is different. Again, if it's a revenue generating application, then sure. But at the end of the day, fixed racking, set it there, install it, leave it, let it produce for 30 years. So there's options. I'd be glad to follow up and talk more about it.
Perfect. We'll just do two more here, Jay.
Sure.
And all other questions, we will get Jay and his team to directly respond back to you with those answers. The first one here is, do you generally need to increase the service into the building? The house is at 100 amps. Would it need to be increased to 200 amps?
That's a great question. So Canadian Electrical Code 64-112 dictates the amount of solar amperage that you can have based on the size of your bus bar. So I won't go into great detail. Let's say you have a 125 amp bus bar, which is somewhat standard in a 100 amp house panel. You would, for a residential application, you would take that 125 amp bus bar times 1.25, and then you would minus the main breaker. So in that case, you'd have 125 amp bus bar times 1.25 equals 156.25 amps minus your 100 amp main. So you'd have 56.25 amps available for solar. So that's something we could talk about in the design process, and we often ask that question. Yeah, you want 100 kilowatts of solar, but maybe your service only allow for 30 kilowatts. So great question.
For sure. And last one for you, Jay, is what amount of solar gain do you lose from the tilt angle of the installation?
Well, so that's a pretty loaded question as well. I don't think there's an exact science. There's a great case study that I could share with whomever asked that question or anybody else that wants it. The tech school in Edmonton, Nate, did a study based on, I think there was 4 different solar arrays in 4 different areas of the province with 4 different pitch angles, and they mounted them side by side. They didn't clean the snow off one and they did off the other. And you'd be pleasantly surprised at the minimal difference with pitch angles and with cleaning or not cleaning snow off. So again, peak production, and like I mentioned, is in peak time of the year. Not so much worried about December, January type thing.
Perfect. So with that, we'll end this webinar off. Thank you all for joining us today. You will receive a certificate of participation for this seminar if you're looking for Your work is looking for you to do additional training. Again, we're here to support the contractors, and thank you very much for everybody to spend a little time with us, and look forward to future seminars in the future. Thank you very much and have a great day.